The new 105.1 The Bull playing your all-time country favorites. We are excited to have a very special guest in the studio. Lead singer of the band Ricochet, Heath Wright. Heath, thank you so much for taking time with us today. Now, when the band first got started, you guys actually have some Missouri ties to the Silver Bullet in Columbia. Is that right?
Well, we did kind of get our started at the Silver Bullet in Columbia. Our first manager owned the Silver Bullet in Columbia, Missouri. And a lot of people don't know that. I don't think any of the original band members were from Missouri. But we got our start there because every time we had an open spot in our calendar, put our little band unit right there at the Silver Bullet, you know. So it was a home base for us in a matter of speaking, even though none of us actually lived there. I think our fiddle player did live with the manager at his house for a little while right after his divorce. But honestly, it was great training ground for us because we'd stay at Steve's house, our manager at the time. During the day, we would do little vocal rehearsals and stuff there in the basement of his house during the day. And then afternoon, we'd go over there and fire everything up and kind of run through the couple of new songs that we had just learned in his basement. And then that night, we'd get to try it out on a live audience. So it was a 5-day gig, Tuesday through Saturday. I tell you, there was a couple of months that we worked at least 2 weeks out of the month there. So it was fun, a lot of good times.
So you guys were working pretty hard pretty early in your career. Do you feel like these smaller venues you guys were playing at were kind of a stepping stone?
Well, that was the plan. I mean, as much as we loved playing the Silver Bullet, it wasn't something that we wanted to make a career out of. We didn't want to play the nightclubs forever. We didn't want to just be a mid-level regional band going from nightclub to nightclub. So that's why we worked so hard at it during the day to kind of hone our skills and get our harmonies tied. And eventually the right person heard us. Blake Chansey from Columbia Records had just gotten a job as the A&R director there. Now, A&R, for those of you that aren't in the music business, means artist and repertoire. Their job is to find artists to sign to the label and then help them find songs to record. So when Blake heard us, he invited a few more people from Columbia Records, not Columbia, Missouri, but Columbia Records to come out and listen. And we got signed to a developmental deal. A developmental deal is they give you a small budget to go in and record a few songs, and then they give that a listen, and they decide if they want to turn it into a full-blown recording contract. We recorded 4 songs on our developmental deal, and I believe "What Do I Know" was one of those songs, our debut single. Anyway, as it would happen, it turned into a full recording contract, and we managed to have a few hits.
So you guys had a massive hit with Daddy's Money. How'd that song come to be for you guys?
Well, that song was not written by anybody in the band. It was written by Bob DiPiero, Steve Seskin, and Mark D. Sanders. And apparently that song had been floating around Nashville for a while. I know that the demo singer on it even considered recording it when he got his record deal. And his name escapes me right now, but I will think of it later. Anyway, he decided to not record it. I guess during his first round of recordings, he did manage to get a recording contract. But I heard it over the phone the first time. We'd had a week off, and so I drove from Nashville back home to my ranch, and my mom and dad were still alive at the time, so I was finally had a little bit of money in my pocket, and I told my dad, I said, let's go to the sale barn and buy some cows. So I wanted to invest what little money I had into in the cattle market back then. So I got home from the sale barn that day, and my mom says, someone named Uncle Ron called here, wants you to call him back. Uncle Ron, I said, well, that's our producer, Ron Chansey. And so he says, I call him back, he says, now Heath, I want you to hear something, right? I'm going to play it for you. We got to jump on this or somebody else is going to record it. So he played me Daddy's Money over the phone, and when it was done, I told him, I said, well, it's kind of a silly little song, but I think it's going to be a hit. We should record it. So that's kind of how that came about.
Now, you've been in the business for quite a while. Do you think it's harder nowadays for artists to get record deals than it was back in the 90s?
Well, that's hard to say. I've been out of Nashville for about going on 10 years now, so I don't really know what the process is for new artists that get record deals these days. I do know for a fact that once you have a record deal, the process of putting out singles and promoting those singles is completely different than it was back in the 90s. A couple of friends of mine are the Swan brothers. They're from Oklahoma, Zach and Colton Swan. And they tell me that, a record company won't even invest in a video until they can see if the song is a hit. It used to be a way to promote a single, making videos and putting them out on CMT and GAC, but it's not even something that's done anymore. It's not even something that's considered unless the song actually is a radio hit. And then there's all sorts of different ways of getting your music these days. Back back in my day, I always love to say that, but back in the day when I was just a country music fan, I used to love to go to the record store and buy a CD. I could hold it in my hand. I could flip through the liner notes, and I owned that music. That was mine. I could hold it. I could listen to it and read the lyrics as I was listening to it down the first time, and it was just something I always looked forward to. But these days, you can snatch a song out of the air and listen to it as much as you want, and then throw it back up there if you don't want to buy it. It's just with streaming audio, and all of that is eventually going to catch up. I think it's all going to catch up and become fair. Streaming audio isn't really fair to the people who make music. I heard some ridiculous statistic the other day, for like 1 million streams, a songwriter might get $100, $200. It's just ridiculous how little the payout is for songwriters and publishers within the streaming world, as opposed to the day when you actually purchased a song and it became yours. Whether it flies out of the air and goes down to your phone, or whether you go to the record store and buy it on a CD, you actually owned that piece of music. That's not really the case anymore. You can just rent the music for a while and then give up your Apple Music membership or whatever.
Now, Heath, you guys have been touring for quite a while now. You've had a lot of shows, but are there any shows that really stand out for you?
Well, there's a lot of great shows that stand out in my memory. I think probably the first time we played the Grand Ole Opry was one of my big moments, when I finally realized that all of that time spent in my room practicing my guitar and writing out lyric sheets and learning these songs and playing all those years on the road at the nightclubs to people who may or may not be listening, finally paid off. That moment when I finally got to step into that sacred circle and sing to the balcony of people that just look out, and it finally happened for me. And I just realized, I remember thinking to myself, I'm so happy that my mom and dad are here, because my mom and dad were in the audience that night. I was so happy that they could actually see that moment for me, and it was huge. And then there's moments like when they fly you overseas to perform. We played a big country music festival in Japan. A gentleman named Charlie Nagatani has this festival called Country Gold every year, and we did the Country Gold 15 with Brad Paisley. And I remember looking out to this sea of wonderful country music fans, and half of them probably couldn't speak English, but they were all singing along to Daddy's Money. And that was another moment that I realized, man, this music thing's pretty cool.
Heath, you guys are playing at the Starlight Theater in Branson this Saturday night. For those in our Bull Nation who might have not got to see you guys live yet, what can we expect?
Well, a Ricochet show, the best way I can describe it is it's chaos at high volumes, but not too high of volumes. I know this is Branson, but a Ricochet show is a little bit of everything, and I don't want to give away too much of it, but you're going to hear songs that you'll remember from the radio, songs like Daddy's Money and What Do I Know and Love Is Stronger Than Pride and He Left a Lot to Be Desired, the big hits that we had back in the 90s. We're also going to throw in some songs from our musical influences. We do one part of the show where we just do songs from classic country singers, and there's a couple of surprises during the show. It's like going to see Blue Man Group, because there's a big drum feature in one of the songs, and then all of a sudden a country music show breaks out. So, just chaos at high volumes is the best way I can describe it.
Heath, thank you so much for the time today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, brother.
You can catch Ricochet this Saturday night at the Starlight Theater in Branson. We've got all the ticket information you will need at our website in the concert tab at thebull1051.com. This is one show I am definitely looking forward to. Thanks for listening. I'm Cruz with the new 105.1 The Bull.